let's try and compact that down into some race highlights. Van der Poel just right from the start here today, you saw that little slide where he slipped off from the cobblestones into that little sort of drainage ditch at the side. Recovered well early on, managed to ride his way back through the field. Andrew Strohmeyer here, that was a sticky moment, and it showed the reaction speed as well, cat-like reactions from Van der Poel.
It certainly was, to avoid a really big pile-up. We saw slips and falls from riders on those run-ups as well today. Although not as muddy as previous editions, but with that extra speed, it was very, very tricky in places.
Was indeed. And Lars van der Haar, what can we say about him today?
What a ride from Van der Haar today. Extremely strong and excellent teammate to Thibaut Nys at this point in the race, throwing down attacks left, right and centre to try and soften up Van der Poel and Van Turnhout.
There was the crash of Mathieu van der Poel, and it wasn't without error and issues for anyone today.
No, it wasn't. As I said, it was very, very tricky conditions with that extra speed and still a little bit slimy on top. It was extremely difficult to control the bike.
It just met it for Van der Poel. His crash came earlier on. For Thibaut Nys, unfortunately, when you go down on a final lap like that, it's always, you know, in the way he did, it was always going to be tough to come back from. Bike changes, timing today. Van der Poel, we saw Thibaut Nys take his bike change here. Van der Poel went for a bike change later on.
He did. He took that bike change with just a lap to go. It was super important to get fresh tread today, those clean pedals, and I think there was experience from Van der Haar and Van der Poel on show today when they took those bike changes.
Van der Haar, that determination that he had. This was the big move here, lap 7 of 9, where Van der Poel put in his first attack. And Thibaut Nys has got to take a huge amount away from this one today, and the way he managed to come back to him here.
He really has. I think, as I said in commentary, it's the first time we've really seen Van der Poel go all in and somebody able to cover that move. And Nys at this point looked fantastic.
That was a little squirrely moment for Thibaut Nys. Managed to save it. This was the bike change point for Mathieu van der Poel with 2 laps to go. Fresh bike, fresh tyre tread. We'll see as well that how much that made a difference on that final lap where Thibaut Nys slid out, and this was the moment.
Yeah, just got caught. There's normally a really big rut as you exit that one. The top surface really breaks up on the exit of that corner. Could be really tricky to handle it on exit as you get on the gas. And that was the small moment where he lost position within the group, and Van der Poel didn't need a second invitation to go on the attack on the final lap.
He certainly did it. And there you have it. Welcome back. Mathieu van der Poel returns with a win. Thibaut Nys, little resigned shape, but you know, came across the line. You could see he knew that he's got it. He had it today.
I think he just, yeah, disappointed and frustrated with himself not to take Van der Poel all the way to the line and really see how they were kind of shoulder to shoulder in that last quarter of a lap.
As you said, sometimes the first race back, he rides into it. It's going to be interesting to see how it goes as the season goes on. If we've got racing like this for the rest of the season, we'll take it. But let's go and hear from Mathieu van der Poel.
Mathieu van der Poel, how deep did you have to dig for this one?
Yeah, it's always hard here on this course. But yeah, in the end, happy to take the win.
What happened with that small crash you had?
Yeah, I was just in the wheels. I was making a bit too many mistakes, and I think, yeah, in the end, when I went to the front, the half last lap was maybe my best technical part of the race. So, but yeah, happy to get the job done.
It seemed to be a battle between you and Thibaut Nys as well.
Yeah, not only him. I think also Van Turnhout and Lars van der Haar were quite strong. So. Yeah, I think I made an early decision to wait until the end of the race to make my move, and yeah, I felt quite good in the end.
And our top 10 looks like this. Mathieu van der Poel takes it ahead of Thibaut Nys and Michael van Turnhout with Lars van der Haar in 4th. Emil Verstringen, Niels van der Putte, Pim Ronhai, Joris Niemenhuis, Vitsi Meusen and Toon van der Bos, our top 10. And our World Cup standings now look like this. Thibaut Nys extends his lead, 110 points to the Belgian. Michael van Turnhout in second. Joris Nieuwenhuis, third spot with Zweek van der Putten, Van der Harve, Stringer, Van der Bos, Kamp and Mikkels, our top 10 in the World Cup overall. The winner of the day, the world champion, Mathieu van der Poel. And as we said, they made him work for it today. But in the end, career win number 171 in a season where he looks to try and take his 8th world title. Taking an out-and-out record in the men's cyclocross.